All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're taking something that honestly often feels like a purely administrative chore for us educators, collaborative planning in the IB Diploma Program, and we're going to completely reframe it. The core rationale here isn't just about surviving the school year, and it's definitely not just checking off a compliance box. Instead, the real goal is actively pooling our peer expertise to design richer, far more cohesive DP learning experiences. We're going to explore how the administrative tasks derived from the DP common files, when we actually utilize them correctly, act as the very engine that drives student success, elevates our teaching practices, and literally transforms school culture. So consider this question for a second. Can we, as a teaching staff, organize and carry out the actions needed to help our students succeed? Take a moment to really let that sink in. Because this isn't just some motivational quote you pin up in the staff room, it's a powerful group-level question that challenges the status quo. By asking this, we immediately tie into the whole concept of collective teacher efficacy. We're shifting our focus away from top-down mandates and framing this entire discussion around genuine educator empowerment. It asks us to honestly evaluate our collective capability and our shared commitment to actual student outcomes. Here's our roadmap. We're going to hit the power of collective efficacy, look at collaborative planning and reflection, break down vertical and horizontal planning, design some authentic subject outlines, and wrap up with meeting IB program standards.
Okay, Section 1, the power of collective efficacy, or the psychology behind collaboration.
The foundation of our discussion really rests on this one concept, collective teacher efficacy, or CTE. It's grounded in Albert Bandura's social cognitive theory, but adapted for education. CTE is essentially a group-level judgment of capability. It's the shared belief among educators that together, they can make a massive difference for student learning. Now, why is this so heavily emphasized in educational lecture notes and research? Well, because when teachers actively engage with their peers, when we finally step out of our silos to share strategies, unpack curriculum, and analyze data together, that shared belief solidifies. It moves from this abstract psychological theory right into actionable classroom momentum. Research consistently shows that collective teacher efficacy is one of the absolute strongest predictors of student achievement, basically empowering us to overcome external hurdles rather than just being limited by them. As educational researchers John Hattie and Claus Zero put it, true collaboration isn't just about sharing a few lesson resources, chatting in the hallway, or merely surviving a mandatory Friday afternoon meeting. No, it requires deliberate, evidence-informed dialogue where teachers critically examine their practices against student progress. This specific type of rigorous, structured collaboration is the actual engine driving collective teacher efficacy. When you sit down with your peers to honestly analyze evidence of learning and adjust your instruction as a unified front, your collective belief in your ability to deeply impact those students just skyrockets.
Moving on to Section 2, Collaborative Planning and Reflection. Let's see how the DP structures this dialogue. Now, even though we kind of tend to separate these tasks in our heads, collaborative planning, designing units, lessons, and curriculum to meet DP requirements, and reflection, the critical evaluation of those outcomes and student feedback, are really just two halves of the exact same process. The IB program standards and practices treat them as a single interdependent concept. You quite literally cannot have one without the other. Your planning inherently requires a reflection component to figure out what actually worked, and your reflection immediately informs and adapts your future planning. Each one seamlessly fuels the other. It ensures the curriculum remains a living, breathing framework, not just some dusty, static document on a shelf.
Section 3, Vertical and Horizontal Planning. This is the structural framework where productive collaboration actually happens.
Let's look at how peer engagement plays out across these two dimensions. Vertical articulation is all about time and progression. This is where teachers of the same subject group engage with each other to sequence learning across the DP years, making sure that what happens in year 1 perfectly tees up a student for year 2. Horizontal articulation, on the flip side, is about breadth. This requires teachers of completely different subjects within the same year level to collaborate and integrate their learning. A perfect example? Deliberately weaving theory of knowledge, or TOK, across all subject areas. By actively talking to peers way outside of your immediate department, you break down disciplinary silos, reinforce shared cognitive skills, and create a highly cohesive, interconnected learning experience for the student. It's a game changer.
All right, Section 4. Designing authentic subject outlines. We're moving from high-level theory down to the tangible tools in the DP common files. Take the IBDP subject outline template, like the one for environmental systems and societies, for example. It's a required document you'll pull directly from the DP common files. But here's the thing. Filling this out in isolation completely misses the point. To truly activate this outline, you've got to engage with your peers and utilize version 3 of the DP Sample Planner, which is also hanging out in the DP Common files. Working through version 3 of the Sample Planner alongside your subject outline, that is where the real collaborative magic happens. It forces teams away from isolated planning. Instead of one teacher quietly filling out a form on their laptop, you get this dynamic process where peers use version 3 of the planner to map out connections, debate instructional strategies, and ensure the course content authentically reflects the subject guides. Together, these documents become the literal canvas for your collective teacher efficacy.
When you actually sit down with your peers to build these outlines, again, using version 3 of the DP Sample Planner, there are a few core rules that really guide the process. First, you've got to distribute topics and allocate time. But please, don't do a rigid day-by-day accounting. The plan needs room to breathe. Second, and this is absolutely vital, the outline must reflect the individual nature of your classroom and your specific cohort of students. Do not just copy and paste from the subject guide. Finally, clearly identify the differentiation between higher-level and standard-level instruction. By utilizing version 3 of the planner to actively avoid that lazy copy-pasting, peers are forced to have that evidence-based dialogue. You're building bespoke, highly targeted roadmaps. You aren't just filling out paperwork, you're building a shared vision.
And finally, Section 5, Meeting IB Program Standards. Let's connect these templates right back to the high-level expectations of Standard C1.
Standard C1 explicitly states that collaborative planning and reflection support the implementation of IB programs. To actually make this happen, schools have to provide dedicated meeting time where all teachers systematically address very specific areas. It's essentially the required agenda for true peer engagement. During these sessions, you must discuss differentiation for varying learning needs. You have to explicitly plan for TOK integration, developing IB learner profile attributes, and fostering international mindedness. And crucially, all of this shared planning must be continuously informed by the ongoing assessment of student work. When you connect these specific discussion points back to our core rationale, it proves this isn't just about surviving an evaluation visit. This structured dialogue is your primary vehicle for maximizing student impact. So, let me leave you with this. Are your course outlines just documents, or are they living evidence of your collective efficacy? When you approach the DP Common files, and specifically tools like version 3 of the DP Sample Planner, not as administrative burdens, but as deliberate, evidence-informed opportunities to genuinely connect with your peers, you transform a bureaucratic checkbox into a shared mission. You prove that by pooling your expertise and rigorously planning together, you possess the undeniable collective capability to ensure every single student succeeds. Pretty powerful stuff, right?